The arguments in the Supreme Court on the legality of Trump's use of emergency law to impose global tariffs were completed on Wednesday. The 9 U.S. Supreme Court justices will now decide on the case. The top court normally takes months to make decisions, but it is not clear when the court ruling will come. Well, the line of questioning by the justices aligned more with the plaintiff's position. And that assessment lines up with betting platforms, bets on poly markets, and countries show a very low market confidence in Trump's win. Trump once again warned of a disaster if the ruling goes against tariffs.
It would be devastating for our country if we lost that. Devastating. I think it's one of the most important, maybe the most, but one of the most important cases in the history of our country.
During the arguments, U.S. Solicitor General John Sawyer, representing Trump's administration, faced tough questions. Key justices voiced doubts about the legality of Trump's tariffs. Chief Justice John Roberts characterized the tariffs as the core power of Congress since they amounted to the imposition of taxes on Americans. Justice Amy Coney Barrett has questioned whether the arguments on IEEPA phrasing was enough for Trump to impose tariffs. 3 conservative justices also raised concerns about Trump's use of emergency law to collect billions of dollars in tariffs. Justice Neil Gorsuch repeatedly raised questions about the administration bypassing Congress's authority. He said that revenue policies are done through our elected representatives. The justice said the constitutional assignment of the taxing power to Congress is a really key part of the context here. He raised alarm on the administration's claim that Congress had delegated its authority over tariffs to the president. Well, Trump-appointed justices Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett asked skeptical questions. However, all 3 justices also probed the arguments by tariff opponents. Separately, when asked if the IEEPA allows the president to cut off trade entirely with the country, the lawyer arguing against Trump's tariffs, Benjamin Gutman, said it could, to which Justice Brett Kavanaugh said it is a bit unusual that a law would allow that, but not the more modest approach of imposing tariffs. Well, Gutman responded that taxation was an inherently different authority. Separately, Justice Amy Coney Barrett asked the lawyer arguing on behalf of a group of private companies what the consequences would be of invalidating Trump's tariffs. Barrett said, "If you win, tell me how the reimbursement process would work. Would it be a complete mess?" Now, in response, the plaintiff's lawyer, Neil Katyal, said, "We don't deny that it's difficult, but the lawyer said there is a precedent for refunds and that the case was about the president's authority." Katyal added that the burden of the refund process should not determine the outcome of the case. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Take a look.
The Supreme Court heard arguments on whether President Donald Trump lawfully used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping tariffs on imports bypassing Congress. Justices were sharply critical, asking whether setting tariffs is truly an executive power or one reserved for Congress under the Constitution. The case challenges a core pillar of Trump's trade agenda and could reshape boundaries of presidential authority in trade policy. The court now moves to its internal conference, where justices vote and assign an opinion writer. The outcome may either strike down or significantly limit the president's tariff powers or uphold the administration's broad reading of the law. If the administration loses, it may need to unwind billions in collecting tariffs and shift to other legal authorities for trade action. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
All right, and to unpack it in further detail, we're now being joined live from Virginia by Stuart S. Malloy. He's a Distinguished Service Professor of Law and International Trade, George Mason University. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast.
Oh, thank you.
So let's start with your key observations on the arguments in the Supreme Court.
Well, I was very surprised. Prior to the actual hearing, my thinking was that the court might very well split along ideological lines. Some of the justices, of course, appointed by Trump, would have an inclination to vote for him. But after listening to the arguments, and actually the arguments went for almost 3 hours, I was really almost shocked that justices across the board really did two things, focused on really the question of statutory interpretation of the IEPA, International Economic Emergency Powers Act. And secondly, they really did not bring in too many other issues. So my observation in response to your question is that I was surprised, and that in fact at this point I'm pretty confident that Trump is going to lose this case.
Right, of course, and if betting platforms such as Polymarket and Culture are anything to go by, there's a very low chance of Trump winning. Now, how would you like to tackle that?
Well, I agree with you. I think the odds of President Trump winning this case, prior, as I suggested just before, prior to the hearing, I think was even money, really. After the arguments, I think he doesn't have much chance, as long as the oral arguments actually mirror the final vote by the justices.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Malloy, for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your valuable perspective with us.
Okay. Thank you.